עשו האבות, סולם חלום מלאכים.
We are standing on the mountain of Beit, next to the settlement of Beit, which is behind us, about 20 miles north of Jerusalem. We can see the towers of Jerusalem in the south. Here on this mountain, our forefather Jacob had his famous dream in which he received the promise of the land and the destiny of the Jewish people. As it is written in the book of Genesis, chapter 28. The land on which you lie, to you will I give it, and to your seed, to your descendants. And your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in you and in your seed, in your descendants, shall all the families of the earth be blessed. The question is, can we identify exactly the site of the dream? Can we identify the spot in which this event took place 3,700 years ago? Let's come with me and try to find out.
כאן מתגשם חלום של האבות, בית אל, כל התורה עולה בישיבות, בית אל, שחוק ילדים, צוהל ברחובות.
Probably the site of the dream of Jacob was preserved in Christian tradition and in Muslim tradition, which are usually based on ancient Jewish tradition. And indeed, we can find on the mountain of Beit, on the northern slope of the mountain, we can find an ancient Muslim maqam. Maqam means prayer house, a holy place. And right next to it, we can see the arches of a Christian chapel from the time of the Crusaders. So we have here Muslim tradition and Christian tradition, which sanctified this place. The name of this prayer house, Sheikh Abdallah, probably is based on the name of Jacob in the Bible. Abdallah means in Arabic, the slave of God. And our forefather Jacob is called in the Bible the slave of God. "30 years ago, in the year 1980, we had a very important guest here in Beit, Professor Ze'ev Vilnai. And he brought us to this Muslim maqam. And he was the first to identify this site as the site of Jacob's dream. He showed us other elements that exist in this site and which show that this site was a holy site. For example, this oak tree. This is an oak tree more than 1,000 years old. Around it, we can see other oak trees which are also very old. And it was preserved by the Arabs because this is a holy site. They did not cut the trees in holy sites. Next to the oak tree, he showed us a Jewish burial cave from the time of the Second Temple. This burial cave is one of more than 100 burial caves, a very unique concentration in one little site. Why did Jews wanted to be buried in this site? Probably because it was a holy site. just as Jews wanted to be buried in Jerusalem or in Hebron. So we have here in this site Jewish tradition, which is expressed in the burial caves, Christian tradition, which is expressed in the Christian chapel, and Muslim tradition, which is expressed in the Makam. All these traditions show that this is a holy, a sacred place. And in the center of this site, we can see a big natural rock on which our forefather Jacob could lie. He could light a fire and thus protect himself from the wild animals that existed in this area in the biblical time. So probably this is the rock of Jacob's dream, right in the center of the site.
מעיין מפקד, אשרי בחלקנו שמחים. בית אל, כאן מתגשם חלום של האבות. בית אל, כל התורה עולה בישיבות. בית אל.
What about archaeology? Can archaeology help us in answering our question, in solving our problem? Here, Professor Ze'ev Milnai came with a very original idea. We know that about 3,000 years ago, King Jeroboam left Jerusalem and built an alternative temple here in Beit El with the famous golden calf. Why did King Jeroboam build his temple here in Beit El? Professor Vilnai offered that he chose Beit El as the site of the temple because here the dream of Jacob took place. And Jacob himself defined this place as the house of the Lord and as the gate of heaven. So this is the right place for a temple. Can we find remnants of the temple of King Jeroboam? Professor Vilnai showed us the remnants of a big public building. In the middle of the site, we can see the remnants of the walls. The size of this building is exactly the size of the tabernacle in the desert, 15 meters long and 7 meters wide. Right next to the temple, we can see a heap of stones. Probably the altar with the golden calf stood there on that high place, which we can see next to the temple. Who destroyed the temple and the altar? The Bible tells us in the second book of Kings, chapter 33, verse 15. Moreover, the altar that was at Beit El and the high place which King Jeroboam, who made Israel to sin, had made, both that altar and the high place he pulled down and burned the high place and beat it into dust and burned the Asherah. So he destroyed the temple and the altar, and we can see the remnants of the temple of Jeroboam. The people of Jerusalem remained loyal to the temple of Jerusalem, but they tried to destroy the temple in Beit El, which was an alternative to Jerusalem. For many years, there was war between the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. That's why the temple of Beit El had to be well fortified, well protected. Can we find remnants to those fortifications in the site? Yes, indeed. We can see here remnants of a huge wall in the southern slope of the hill. It protected the temple. We can see here remnants of towers, remnants of rooms for soldiers. All this fortification protected the temple and is another indication that this was indeed the site of the temple of Jeroboam. And if this is the temple of Jeroboam, this is also the site of the dream of Jacob. And here, in this site, we have a combination of archaeology and tradition. Both bring us to the conclusion that this is the rock of Jacob's
בית אל, כל התורה עולה בישיבות. בית אל, צחוק ילדים צוער ברחובות. בית אל,
When Jacob, our forefather, got up from his dream, he climbed to the top of the mountain and looked around, and indeed he could see the whole land, exactly as it is written in the Bible. And you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. From the mountain of Beit El, we can see the whole land. In the west, we can see the coast of the Mediterranean and the towers of Tel Aviv. In the east, we can see the Jordan Valley and the Gilad Mountains. In the north, we can see the mountains of the Galilee up to the Hermon mountain covered with snow. And to the south, we can see Jerusalem with its towers and the mountains of Hebron. Indeed, this is the right place to see the land and to get the promise of the land. And here we are on the mountain of Beit El, 3,700 years after the dream of Jacob, 2,000 years after the Jewish people went to exile. And we are privileged to live in a generation in which the Jewish people came back to its homeland and came back to the mountains of Beit El, exactly as God promised to Jacob. And behold, I am with you, and I will keep you in all the places to which you go, and I will bring you back to this land and to this place. We are back in this place. We are back in Beit El, exactly as God promised to Jacob. And from this place, we shall never go away. We shall never leave the land of Israel. We shall never leave the mountains of Beit El.
ברחובות, בית אל, אתה היא לבבות. בית אל, כאן מתגשם חלום של האבות. בית אל, כל התורה עולה בישיבות. בית אל, צחוק ילדים צוער ברחובות. בית אל, אתה היא לרבבות.